It called for 50-bed shelter system. End of proposal. End of the thing. That was the RFP. Where does an RFP allow you to go outside the margins?
That's what I'm asking you, whether you had any understanding that that could possibly happen.
I wouldn't have even thinking it all the years of experience I've had writing proposals.
Okay.
It would be thrown in the garbage if this went to the province or the federal government.
Thanks, Peggy.
Councillor Peters, please.
It's closing, but it's not going to close for a couple of years?
Depends.
Okay. You mentioned that you were not zoned for shelter. So when you put the shelter bid in, was part of the concept that you were going to apply for rezoning?
That was at the very end of the RFP.
Okay.
It was quoted from my lawyer, Richard Taylor.
Okay.
Because we understand that none of the buildings are zoned appropriate for a shelter.
Okay. And so when you were talking about bringing people from across the country, you're talking about people who work with those in need with addictions and so on, and you're going to train those staff people and counselors.
Yeah. Employability skills.
Right. Okay.
My programs are used currently in probably most addiction treatment programs. If we send somebody to Ottawa to a treatment center, a lot of those places have been trained in my program. Okay, so people from, let's say, a treatment center would come here and be trained as a staff to go back and do those programs in there wherever they are doing it, whether it be a Native Friendship Center or whether it be a Canadian Mental Health or whatever it may be across the country.
But I do have a few questions. Through your worship, Ms. Shaughnessy, just so we get this clarified, has Whitepath purchased the building, or is it the Argyle Centre, or is it Peterborough Prevention and Intervention that's purchased the building?
And will that answer help the benefit of what we're discussing here tonight?
Well, I would think it would provide some clarity, because there's revenue streams to pay leases and mortgage that you've submitted with your RFP.
I think that you will have to contact my lawyer on that one.
All right.
And Your Honor, the reason I'm saying that is Mr. Hall has been digging deep right from Trent University, and I can give you names on what my connections is at Trent University. I've had difficulties there in my research group with calls from there, and I think Mr. Hall and I would be best to sit down and discuss things and get things ironed out and not in public.
Your worship, I guess just as a point of privilege there, because I didn't ask that question, I have been trying to get information. I have been trying to get questions answered, and it has been challenging. Another example is this evening to get clarification on this, so I'll continue to do so. Through you, your worship, to Ms. Shaughnessy, is Whitepath a charitable organization?
Whitepath Consulting is not.
Okay. And through you, Ms. Shaughnessy, and you're very comfortable with for-profit providing the hostel services within the city of Peterborough?
It was Peterborough Intervention and Support.
Okay. Things are... Now, through you, your worship, the documentation that I've received this evening it's Whitepath that's on the header, not Peterborough Prevention. And
Mrs. Reed can clarify that in the proposal. It said Whitepath, also known as Peterborough Intervention and Support. Am I right? We had to incorporate, so I'll answer the question then. We had to incorporate Whitepath into Peterborough Intervention. It had to be incorporated to purchase a building.
Okay.
All is Whitepath Consulting is renting a space within the facility.
Thank you. Okay. Through your worship, it seems kind of a nebulous situation. Is Peterborough Prevention and Intervention has charitable registration? It
does.
All right. Through you, your worship, Ms. Shaughnessy, you did reference that I had sort of, well, you didn't name me by name, but then when you said that it wasn't Councillor Ankleton, it only left me as the Northcrest representative. But it was your own representative of Whitepath, I believe a volunteer, that brought up the detox center, the shelter system. residents have asked you that question at your open house. So when I repeated the question, it was as if I was spreading rumors.
Well, the question, and I'll intervene there, on anybody that ever asked me on walking through the building, had I put an RFP, and it was, and if it's a particular people that is in question, they didn't come through the whole entire tour. So we had more than one tour through the building.
Okay. So, through your worship, Ms. Shaughnessy, when people asked you directly, was there a shelter application for the Argyle Centre? Did you say yes or no?
Yes, and I explained what I wanted to do with it.
You said yes. Okay. Ms. Shaughnessy, as part of your RFP, you've said that a restaurant will be generating some revenue.
Yes.
You believe you have the zoning for a restaurant?
It tells you right in the zoning.
Okay.
Restaurant, barber shop, there's several things in there.
Okay. And to your worship, Ms. Shaughnessy, is White Path, or the Peterborough Prevention and Intervention Group that's incorporated, that's for profit, I take it, but one has a charitable status, is it a college or university?
It's a training center.
Okay. Thank you. You've also included as part of your RFP for additional revenue a convenience store of $150,000. Do you believe that you have the zoning for that?
It's in the zoning as it can be part of the restaurant. It may not be the convenience store per se,
Okay.
but it would sell things in it that you would purchase in a convenience store.
Okay. Through your worship, again, as part of the RFP, the budget that was submitted for revenue, you have office rental for over $300,000. What's that office rental for?
For different services that are intended to come on board to rent space. There's lots of space there. You have to remember that out of 259 beds in the Argyle Centre, that only makes up 18% of the building.
Okay. And through you, your worship, Ms. Shaughnessy, as part of the RFP and part of the revenue stream here, do you believe you have the commercial zoning to have office rentals there?
Universities rent office space, do they not?
I'm just asking you if you feel you have the zoning.
I'm saying universities rent space, do they not? It's zoned for a university, is it not?
Through you, your worship, are you a university or college?
The building is zoned for it.
Are you a university or
No,
college?
I'm a training center.
Thank you. Through your worship, Ms. Shaughnessy, the area that the Argyle Centre rests on is in our official plan as major institution, which is basically a university, a college, or a hospital. Are you any of one of those three things?
I really don't know. And I don't know how this is relating to the shelter system, what you're asking me.
Seriously.
Like, I really am not sure where you're going with this.
Your worship, through you to Ms. Shaughnessy. Ms. Shaughnessy, do you believe you have the zoning in place to run a shelter system out of the Argyle Centre?
Yes. Well, the shelter? No. And neither does any other building here.
Okay, but do you believe that you have the zoning in place to run a shelter system?
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows that. Like, I don't even know why you're trying to make me look like a fool here.
Well,
I really don't.
through your worship, I'm not trying to make anyone look like a fool.
Well, you sure seem to be.
I'm asking some pretty direct and clear questions, and I'm not being aggressive or rude or anything. I don't know if you have any problem answering them.
I have no problem.
Okay.
But I don't really know a lot of what that related to on what we're discussing here tonight.
Well,
Any further questions?
Yeah, no,
Councillor Hall, I think this has gone on long enough.
okay.
Thank you. Are there?